Well, it wasn't to be in the Challenge Cup for the Bears this season as they went down with a battling display away to Doncaster on Friday night. We've got the reaction and the analysis from that game, and we look ahead to the next League One action. This is your favourite podcast about the Coventry Bears. This is Bear Necessities. Yes, welcome to Bear Necessities, the world's greatest podcast about the Coventry Bears. We live and breathe at covbearspodcast.com. We're at covbearspodcast on Twitter. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and just about anywhere else that does podcasts. And we are sponsored by York's Tim, for which we are very grateful. My name is Dave Musson. I'm one of your hosts, and joining me as always is my co-host, Craig Cathcart. Craig, how are you doing?
Yes, good, mate. Good. Glad we don't have rugby today because the weather is absolutely horrendous, and I see a lot of places in the country have got snow coming down. So, not a great day for rugby today.
No, and of course, Bears got their rugby out of the way on Friday night with their Challenge Cup tie away to Doncaster, which we will talk about in more depth over the course of this show. But before we jump into Bears stuff, Craig, there was something else on Friday night that has a Bears link that I just wanted to mention, and I just thought it was worth pointing out for people to keep an eye on him. And that was the fact that Jacob Ogden, who was on loan at the Bears for most of last season, made his Super League debut away at St Helens on Friday night. I mean, his team, the Broncos, ultimately went down 26-0, I think it was, but another Super League debutant with a Bears link. That's massive for the club, isn't it?
Tremendous, and he's a Midlands lad as well. He's from Northampton, so that's he's another product of the Midlands Academy, which sadly had its funding withdrawn last year, I think it was, but flying the flag for the Midlands, and tremendous achievement from him. I mean, he was an exceptional player at the Bears, did really well last year. The Bears give him the opportunity to get game time, get experience. He linked up very well with sort of the rest of the team, and fantastic for him. He's had a good few months, with being involved in the Jamaica Rugby League team that have qualified for the World Cup and now playing in Super League. So, it's fantastic news. And again, it just shows the value of teams like the Bears, giving people the opportunity to get game time, get experience, and yet another Bears player who's gone on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, and it's really something for some of the current players to aim for, isn't it? I mean, you look at Super League now. I know Joe Batchelor is on loan at York this season in the Championship, but he's a Saints player now. You've got Jacob Ogden making his debut in Super League. Jason Bass has made the step up this season and is already ripping up trees at Championship level. Yeah, this is a really important first step in their career, isn't it? Make an impression at the Bears, and people higher up in the game will notice, and they will pick the talent out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can have all the talent in the world, but until you get experience on the pitch, then you're not going to be able to show what you can do. And being able to come into a League One side where with like the Bears, where everything is set up for players to do well if they want to take the opportunity. The training is good. They've got a fantastic coaching setup. This is something certainly that the Bears, can offer to players. It's the Bears are a League One team. We've got to accept at the minute that's where they are, but hopefully more players will see the Bears as a place to come and better their game and improve, and that will benefit the Bears as well.
Definitely. Okay, so well done to Jacob, and do keep an eye on him for any of you who watch Super League regularly. Let's move on now to the third round of the Coral Challenge Cup, which unfortunately was as far as the Bears assault on Wembley went this season. They were given a tough draw away to Doncaster, of course, a draw that was made in Coventry a few weeks ago. And ultimately, the challenge of going up to Doncaster last Friday night was just too much. Although the Bears gave it a real fight, they did go 8-0 up at one point, and they drew level at 12-all as well, and they were very much in the game with 20 minutes to go. But ultimately, a combination of an immensely unlucky amount of injuries for the Bears and perhaps a little bit more Nelson experience from Doncaster in the final quarter of the game saw the home side put an end to the Bears Cup run, and final score was Doncaster 38, Bears 16. The Bears tries coming 2 from Kadeem Williams, another from Elliot Hall, and one from Dan Gover as well. So Craig and I will delve into the game a bit more right after we hear from Bears head coach Tom Tsang. I guess tell me a bit about last night. I mean, watching it on Twitter, it you were certainly in the game with 20 minutes to go, and it felt a lot closer than you got to Doncaster last year. And in the end, it just looked like Doncaster's experience maybe edged it out in the final quarter. How did you see it?
Well, yeah, we'd asked the players for a reaction and response to last week, and we definitely got that. And obviously, the scoreline in the end, they scored, I think, 3 tries in the last 15 minutes, which pulled them away a little bit. And I know a lot of teams say it, but it genuinely does flatter them, in my opinion. It's not a true reflection of how close the two teams were for probably 65 minutes of the game. We matched them for probably sort of 55, 60 minutes. But the problem was we had one of our front rowers, Ollie Perslow, came off at half-time with a concussion, and he didn't return about 5 minutes into the second half. Peter Ryan came off with a concussion assessment. He didn't come back on. And then Dante, about 5 minutes after that, Dante Moore-Samuels had a calf strain, so he came off. That meant we had to sort of shift around the back line. And then Ewan Tiernan also picked up a sort of a calf ankle injury. So he didn't come back on. Meanwhile, Dan Gover and Kieran Sherratt were struggling with shoulder injuries as well. So all that meant was we didn't actually have any fit bodies on the bench for probably the last half an hour of the game. So as Doncaster brought substitutions on around the 60-minute mark, and we would normally have done the same, we couldn't match their fresh bodies on the field, and that's what allowed them to pull away in the final sort of 15 minutes or so. But before that, we were absolutely in the game and testing them every time we had the ball. And we made some 1 or 2 sort of unforced errors to allow them back into it at 8-0. But generally speaking, we were as threatening as them, if not more so, for most of that first 60, 65 minutes. So generally speaking, I'm proud of the effort that the lads put in, and I'm proud of their response from last week. And there's some things there that were sort of outside our control in terms of the injuries, and we can take a lot of positives out of it.
And I guess another one of those positives is you mentioned Ewan Tiernan there, another one of the players who's come through from the link up with Coventry University. How did he fare? He was excellent.
He started the game. We thought it'd be better for him just to get in there right from the first minute and not have to acclimatise if he came on as a sub. He was blowing a little bit after about 5 minutes, but then once he got his second wind, it was great for another sort of 15, 20 minutes after that. So he brings just a load of energy and really dynamic carries, and he's really sort of rugged in defence as well. He's still got a lot of things to work on, mainly sort of positional things and just tidying up some of his technique. But his potential is huge. And for a first game at this level, he really acquitted himself brilliantly. So I'm very happy with how he went, and I'm sure he's going to have a big sort of impact for us through the year.
Brilliant. I guess one thing I wanted to ask, so that's 2 games in a row now where you've sort of got into an 8-0 lead and then not been able to hold on to it ultimately. Is that just something that's is that almost inevitable with given how young the squad is? Is that game management side of thing going to be something that just comes over the course of the season as this group of players have more experience of being in those positions, do you think?
I think so. But I think 2 games isn't a huge sample size, so I don't know if we can draw too many conclusions from it. But in any game, both teams will have their periods of ascendancy and momentum on their side or against them, and we had it for the first half an hour at least, and they came back in the final 10 minutes and just were able to put together a few sets where they put some pressure on our line, and we're obviously a very good team and we're good enough to score 2 quick-fire tries. I think what we need to be better at is recognising when we're not in that sort of, when momentum isn't with us. We need to recognise that better and be able to affect that period of play and sort of soak up the pressure a little bit better. We are not as resilient defensively as I would like. We've conceded sort of 28 and then 40 and then now 38 points in the last 3 games, which isn't a great stat. But then again, we have played 3 very good teams. So yeah, it's just a case of recognising those things and being able to hold our line a little bit better. But yeah, those things will improve. I guess combinations will improve as well, as players are still sort of learning to trust each other in different situations and scenarios. But everything is down to, we can put down to experience and just learn from it and look back at the game and improve. The guys are definitely going in the right direction. So we're positive at this point.
Yeah. So I guess it must have been quite a tough week having such a short turnaround between the Keithley game and the Doncaster game. But I guess the flip side of that now is you've got a slightly longer turnaround before you get back into league action next week. So what's the preparation looking like for that next game? Is it, I'm guessing, is it more of how you usually approach it and focusing on what you guys want to do rather than worrying about the opposition? And is it a case of resting players? Or what are you looking at with this slightly extended gap?
Yeah, so we're going to be pretty thankful for those extra few days because of the injuries that were picked up last night. So we'll just give those guys a couple of extra days to recover and see how they go on our next scheduled session, which is Tuesday. We always review our performance from the previous weekend on the Tuesday, work on anything that we feel that we need or any ongoing things that we think we need. And then the Thursday is all about the upcoming game. And the majority of that is, as you alluded to, is about ourselves again, is about fixing ourselves. But we do review the opposition and make sure that we're aware of their threats. It doesn't necessarily always change the way that we're going to play, but it's good to be having an awareness of where their threat might come from. So we'll prepare as normal. The lads have got used to that as a system through the week. So we won't change too much, but we'll just keep a really keen eye on some of these injuries.
And what are you expecting from Workington? Because I mean, this is pretty close to being a sort of top of the table clash. I know it's early on in the season, but it's 2 teams who've started the year well. Had some battles against Workington in the last couple of years that have not quite gone the Bears' way. I mean, nobody probably gave you any chance against Newcastle, and you turned them over. So fingers crossed for a good result, I'm guessing, against Workington.
Absolutely. Well, as you said, we beat Newcastle. No one thought that was possible. We were more than capable of beating Doncaster last night, and I'm sure most people wouldn't have thought that was possible. Even though, if you just glanced at the score, you wouldn't sort of think that we were that close, particularly. But we know within our camp that we were, and Workington are absolutely no different. So we expect a pretty similar thing pretty similar experience to Doncaster. Very physical pack, very experienced players who won't panic if they're not in front at any point in the game. They'll just keep going through their processes for 80 minutes, and that's something that we need to emulate to a certain extent. But we do know that they've got some very, very talented players. Their hooker, for example, he reads the game brilliantly, probably the best hooker in the league. Could easily be playing in Championship if he wanted to. So we need to be aware of him as a threat. And then there's just 1 or 2 players across their team that stand out. Although obviously they've got talent across their team. So we know that we're going to be in for a full 80-minute slog. It's going to be physical. It's going to be tough. It's going to be fast. So, but that's no different to what it was last night, and we matched it. So we're going to be confident going into the game.
Great stuff. And I guess last question: how much is Peter Ryan looking forward to meeting his old pal Phooey again?
Well, I'm sure he'll be really, really revved up for it. But he was obviously one of the players who picked up a concussion last night. So we'll need to see how he is. But I'm sure if he's fit, then he'll be raring to go.
Awesome. Great stuff, Tom. Thanks as always for your time, and I'll see you next week.
No problem, Dave. Thanks.
So thanks to Tom Tsang for joining us and sharing his views on the Bears' unsuccessful cup trip up to Doncaster on Friday night. Craig, I mean, I know you and I, neither of us were unfortunately able to make this in person, so I think we were both restricted to following this through Twitter. It was very exciting for an hour. It felt like there was a shock on, but ultimately, as Tom was talking about in his interview, those injuries really, really crushed any real chance of the Bears holding on for that last 20 minutes. And it sounds like a bit of a gutting one.
Yeah, so I did have a couple of people message me straight after the game, and both of them said that it was a flattering scoreline, that the Bears played some really fantastic stuff. Mm-hmm. Just. And we're completely in the game at 60 minutes, just came unstuck in the last quarter. As you said, partly due to injuries, not having any subs for the last quarter of the game, which is a bit of a killer, really, when you play an experienced team like Doncaster. Richard Horne, the Doncaster coach himself, mentioned that in his post-match, that they could see that the Bears were starting to tire due to lack of substitutions. And, the Bears really did give a good account of themselves. It was very, very tight up to 60 minutes. I have had the benefit of seeing the match highlights as well. Doncaster posted that on their YouTube channel. And the Bears scored 4 very good tries. Particularly the Elliott Hall one in the corner, on the right corner, was an excellent move. Really, really excellent move. And Kandeem Williams' second try as well was brilliant. It was a fighting performance from the Bears. But for some misconversions, which is unusual for the Bears to miss that many. 4 tries, no conversions. The Bears would have been in the lead for most of the game, but for that. It's one of those, it shows progress. The Bears went, I remember the long trip to Doncaster at the start of last season in the league, and the Bears shipped 70 points and were totally outclassed by Doncaster on that day. But to really push Doncaster in the Cup bodes well for the next few games. And again, it's another, aside from a sort of second half capitulation last week against Keighley, all in all, the Bears have played very, very well this season.
Yeah, plenty of positives to take. Certainly it sounds like there was a reaction from last Sunday, and as we discussed on the show last week, the second half at Keighley last week was plain not good enough. Bad day at the office, move on. And yeah, they definitely seem to react on Friday night. And another couple of positives in terms of individuals. I chatted to Tom in that interview there about the impact of Ewan Tiernan, who has come through from the Coventry University setup and is another brilliant success story there. And it sounds like he made a real impression. But Elliott Hall, he just can't stop scoring this season, can he?
Yeah, he's an excellent finisher. He was playing on the wing this time. There was a bit of a switch around with Dante Morley-Samuels coming in at fullback. And, Elliott has got a lot of pace, looks a class player. I really like that he's a good support runner, and, hopefully he'll keep his scoring rate up. He's done fantastically well. So, and Kandeem Williams as well with 2 tries. Again, he looks the real deal in the centre. But yeah, I've heard from about 3 or 4 different people that Ewan Tiernan did really, really well. Really hard runner, aggressive in defence, and put in a fantastic shift. And he played part of the game with a knock as well. So he's done really well. Callum Merritt as well, I heard had a decent game. He's not played many games for the Bears yet, but he looks a real talent as well. And then the usual suspects, Kieran Sherratt, Chris Barrett, again, they're reliable best. We know how good they are. But all in all, disappointing for the Bears not to get the result, but they can hold their heads up and take the positives and move into the next game.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's just looking at the team from Friday now, looking at players who have either come through directly from Coventry University or are still playing at university level. I mean, you've got Dante at fullback, and then into the pack you've got Ewan Tiernan, Jacob Jones is at Loughborough University, Chris Barrett and Kieran Shearer have both played for Coventry University, Dan Gover's played for Coventry, Peter Ryan played for Coventry as well. I mean, that's real testament to what the Bears are trying to do in terms of establishing links locally with the universities, but also trusting in that university and student game. And as we were talking about earlier with Jacob Ogden, picking out the talent and trusting those players to throw them in at this level, and trusting that they'll do a job for you. And it's really heartwarming to see, isn't it, that the Bears are still being able to make the progress they've made this year on a squad that is full of youth and full of students, rather than relying on shipping in all these grizzled northerners a couple of times a week to try and claw a result for us. I feel very, very proud of this squad as the way it's shaping up this year.
They are a very young squad, definitely, and matches like the game against Doncaster, like the game against Keighley, they didn't win it, but they showed real glimpses of promise, and they will have gained a lot of experience from both those two games. I mean, you only got to look at someone like Ewan Tiernan coming in for his debut against Doncaster and playing really well. The guy hadn't even played rugby league until sort of September last year. So
incredible.
That's meteoric, really, to come in with that sort of no experience at all playing rugby league, and you're in playing in League One. It shows the talent's there, but when someone comes in with that level of experience, it will take a while. We saw Peter Ryan last year, how much he improved throughout the season. I'm pretty sure it'll be the same for Ewan.
So with the Bears Cup dream for this year being over, Craig, are you gonna? Is there anyone still remaining in the cup or yet to join the cup that you're gonna be backing to make a bid for Wembley this year, or are you just gonna be completely neutral and enjoy it whatever happens?
I'm actually keeping an eye on Dissington today.
Yes,
at Keighley, yeah, because I mean, last year obviously the Bears won relatively comfortable in the end, but I was really, really impressed with Dissington. With how they approached the game, really impressed with the number of fans they took with them to the Butts Park Arena, and I'm hoping that they will put on a good show today. In terms of the cup, it's hard. There's been a lot of fairly negative press prior to the start of the Challenge Cup with the allegedly expansion teams like Toronto, Toulouse, Catalan's been asked to pay a bond just to be able to enter the cup. So I'd like to see Catalans go on another good run, and I would love to see personally if a League One club does something similar to what the Bears did last year and go through to the fifth round. I'd love to see a League One club doing really well. All of the League One clubs last year that put on a really good. I know there was a couple of championship teams lost to League One clubs in the cup last year, so I'll just support the underdog all the way through, I think, this year.
Fair enough. And yes, your mention of Dissington has reminded me of their slightly weird club badge that has a naked bearded man on there. So the further that can go in the competition, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I'm all up for York City Knights getting to be the next BBC streamed game and hearing Dave Woods describe Jason Bass jink his way through the line and score a try, and maybe reference the Bears in there as well. I think I'd take that in the next round as well. Cool. So congratulations to Doncaster for ending Coventry's cup dream this year. Good luck for the rest of the Challenge Cup, and of course the Bears have a chance to get revenge on Doncaster in a few weeks in the league, and we will of course feature that game on this podcast. But next on the fixture list is a return to League One action, a return to the Butts Park Arena for the visit of Workington Town next week. Top of the table clash, Craig. This is it's going to be a good one next Sunday. Yeah,
well, I think before the Keighley game, I was confident the Bears going to Keighley and getting a result, and I thought Workington would beat Hunslet. I thought this could potentially actually be the top two. But as it stands, it's still a top-of-the-table clash. Depending on the result, whoever wins could potentially go top of the league. And, it's not often we talk about the Bears being involved in a top-of-the-table clash. So, really looking forward to the game next week. It will be obviously a challenge against Workington, who are one of the probably the top three favourites to win the title or win the league this year. They only just missed out in promotion last year, so they'll definitely be a big test for the Bears, and again another measure of how good this young squad is this year.
Yeah, and the last two visits of Workington to Coventry have been distinctive for me for two reasons. 2017 season was that epic game when Workington looked for all in the world as they were going to run away with it. They were 28 something ahead, and Bears clawed it back to 28 all and then agonisingly lost with a drop goal in the last minute. That I've talked to so many Bears fans who were casual Bears fans up until that game, and then from that moment on they realised that no casual fan would feel that heartbroken. That was the game that really turned them on. And then of course last year's game where we were expecting quite a close battle. Of course we had the fun and games of Peter Ryan saying welcome to England to Fooey Fooey, but last year's game was really ruined by a terrible refereeing performance. So I'm really, really looking forward to this season's squad hitting out against Workington at this point in the season as well, because also the game last year, the Bears had been on a bit of a losing run, and it just felt like a lot of things were going against them at that time. But there's a lot more positivity about the club this year, and I'm relishing the prospect of watching them take on this team, because as I said to Tom in his interview as well, nobody gave the Bears a chance of beating Newcastle, and they beat them quite comfortably. So yes, it should be a terrific game next Sunday.
Yeah, I think last year was there was a run of about 3 or 4 games last year, wasn't there, where the Bears really were in a hole. The Workington game came off the back of quite a heavy, an absolute tonking by Keighley away, and then as you said, I think the Bears on the day started brightly. The referee was horrendous. The Peter Ryan hit on Fooey Fooey. In some ways, though, although the Bears had another heavy defeat the week after against Oldham, in some ways this game was sort of a bit of a turning point in that the squad seemed to galvanise a bit off the back of it. There was people like Peter Ryan were coming to the fore. The squad was starting to gel. They then went on to obviously get a decent-ish result at home against Bradford, where they put up a really good fight for 50, 60 minutes. So it's this year, as I said, I think last year, what was it, 52-4 or something it ended up being at home, which, is a big defeat at home, and Workington comfortable in the end. But they played to Workington near the end of last season away, and it ended up being 40-16. And as I recall, I think at one point the Bears there was only one try in it, into the second half. So the Bears were well in the game before Workington and just pulled away right at the end. So that was a massively improved performance, and the Bears went on off the back of that performance to beat Scholars and then get a result against Hunslet as well. I think there's every chance. Workington, though, they're a talented squad, really talented squad, some really good experienced players. I do think Leon Price is is showing that he's a very, very good coach. Seems to be a really nice guy. Certainly he endeared himself well to Bears fans last year, and I think he's got them well coached. They'll come down, and they'll be hoping for a win, but let's hope the Bears can put in one of these big home performances that we know they can do.
Well, let's go for some predictions then. Obviously, because we're both like Mark Lawrenson when he's predicting Liverpool, we're both going to predict a Bears win. So what are you saying? How big a margin of victory is this going to be? I reckon Bears by 2.
I'm just looking at their the Workington results so far. So they beat Oldham away, which is a tough one to do. They beat North Wales comfortably at home, and the Bears obviously had quite a close game with North Wales earlier on in the season or in pre-season.
You're surely not coming round to predicting the Bears to lose, Craig. Surely not.
No. I'm going to go for 1 point win by the Bears. Ooh. They're going to get their revenge on that agonising 29-28 defeat from a couple of years ago.
I both hope that does happen and hope it doesn't happen, because that would be an awful game to watch. In terms of just heart rates and getting dangerously high, but I will take it. I will take any win against Workington. Win. Yeah, definitely.
I'd take a 2-0 win would do me nicely.
Yeah, I'd take 1-0.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, of course, whatever the result, we will be back with a new episode next week, and we'll have all the reaction from that for you. But don't just wait for us to come and talk about it next week. Get yourself to the Butts Park Arena on Sunday, 17th of March, kick off at 3 o'clock. All the usual stuff. You know the drill. Get down there, get behind the Bears, and see what this squad is shaping up to be like as we get further and further into the 2019 season. But for this week, that's as far as we go on this episode. Don't forget you can find links to all of our places to subscribe: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, all of that. All of the links are at covbearspodcast.com, and we're sponsored by York's Tim, for which we're very, very grateful. Craig, I will see you at the Butts next week for a visit of Workington.
Yes, can't wait. Cheers.